Alrighty, so we're actually going to just jump straight in terms of doing part one of this review because this review is already late enough. I have been very busy these last couple days, haven't got a chance to do a video, but alas, finally going to do the review. And if there's one thing I will just quickly say is the fact that if you were the road team in the middle of the week, this was a good week for you because plenty of road team won and there was plenty of drama late in the game as well, which includes the first game we're going to talk about. And this game was absolutely bonkers. I mean, this game between Toronto and Charlotte, and I'm kind of not surprised that this game was bonkers because it feels like for the last couple of games, whenever TFC has a home game, it's been must-watch TV. I mean, I don't think it's no longer the MLS before noon kind of magic that we seen with TFC game tends to be absolutely crazy with them being all 1 p.m. start. It's now happening with 7:30 starts as well because yeah, it was kind of a miracle the fact that TFC was able to come from behind in this one, despite the fact that they were down the 10 man for a majority of the second half as well. Now in the first half, Sargent with the game's first shot, but he was denied by Kalina. But then on the first shot for Charlotte, it's in the back of the net. Aloko, he scored from Westwood to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead, and just an absolute gut punch for TFC in that moment too, because they had a chance on the other end. That was the Sargent chance, and the next thing you know, Charlotte quickly go on the transition, and they were able to score on that as well. Good news for Toronto is that they would quickly respond, as in the 14th minute, Simerentnik would score his first career MLS goal from Sargent and Larea to tie the game up at one apiece. Beal did look to respond on the other end, but he was denied by Gavron before Schleck would put it over from long range. One thing I will also say about this game, defense was not really a thing in this game. And we also have seen in some of these games where defense was kind of optional because that's just how midweek games is. Midweek games tends to be very bonkers in terms of some of these games because of the fact that, on a short rest, defense might not be up for the task. But that being said, in the 20th minute, or actually I before I said that, I thought Charlotte did a good job response trying to press to get the lead back, and they do. As in the 20th minute, Tokomani would score to make it 2-1 in favor of Charlotte, and in many ways he kind of saved the blemish of Pepiel here. Pepiel had a tap in here, and he just kind of stumbled his way, just couldn't quite get in the shot. Almost like he slipped as he was trying to tap that one in, and Gavron did get a hand to it, but it fell right into Tokomati, and yeah, like I said, very fortunate for Pepe the fact that his teammate kind of picked up the slack because that would be a pretty bad mess in many ways if that was not in the back of the net. Zimmerman did look to answer, but he heads it wide from the corner before Abada puts it wide from close in the 32nd minute. Corbinu would then puts it wide from close range. Both teams definitely exchanged some chances. Again, defense kind of optional at times in the first half. Would be continued for the second half as well. Tokomati would then hits one right to Galvron, but we do head to halftime with Charlotte leading 2-1. In the second half, Pacific would hit it wide from close range before Sargent would put one right to Galvron in the 53rd minute. I thought it was a promising start for Toronto. They were looking to try to tie it up, but instead, in the 55th minute, we got a red card here as Walker Zimmerman he committed Doxo offense on Tokomani. That's a very questionable one. I mean, yes, this one happened on the left side. You could maybe argue that he might be in on goal, but it just kind of felt like there was another Toronto player on the other side as well, and I think he probably could have got back to make that save there. I don't think that was the last man, but nevertheless, it didn't matter on the field. The call is a Doxo, and yeah, Toronto was down to 10 men for the rest of the game, and it also doesn't help that on that free kick that Charlotte, of course, got. They instantly capitalize on it as Henry Kessler would score from Westwood to make it 3-1 in favor of Charlotte. It's been a while since Henry Kessler have scored going. In fact, I think this is his first for Charlotte as well, ever since he got traded to Charlotte. A lot of people don't know that he actually got traded to Charlotte because he hasn't been featured for Charlotte very often this season. And yeah, I mean that is one that, to be fair, that also is a one that probably Galvin should do better in a way, but nevertheless, Charlotte wouldn't care. They were up 3-1 in this one. St. Maximin then try to make it 4-1, but he hits it right to Gavron. There was no doubt that Charlotte had all the momentum. They were pressing to get that fourth goal. However, in the 76th minute, Daniel Showerly would score from Corbinu and Simerenik to make it 3-2 in this one, and all of a sudden, maybe it's not over yet. Smalls did look to restore that two-goal lead, but he was denied by Gavron before the woodwork would deny cleverly in the 87th minute. Charlotte was pressing again to try to get that fourth. Gavron would then deny St. Maximin from close, but then on the other end, again, just completely against the run of play. You would not expect TFC would have a way to even get themselves back in the game, let alone get an equalizer. But here, completely against the run of play again. Nicholas Dorsch would score his second goal for TFC, second consecutive game that he have scored after he scored his first in his MLS career in the last game. He scored from Etienne Jr. and Gilman. This time it wasn't really a banger like what we saw with his first goal, but nevertheless, against all odds, this game is tied at 3 apiece. Westwood would then look to respond, but it hits it right to Gavron, and you thought that this was over? No, it's not, because as I said, defense not a thing whatsoever. It pretty much was tactic free zone late in this one. There was chance after chance for both teams. Corbinu would then or Kalina would deny Corbinu from close in the ninth minute. St. Maximin would then puts it just wide from long range. By the way, I started to kind of messed up in terms of writing because this game was really bonkers late in the one. It just feels like both of these teams were pushing hard to try to get all 3 points in this one. And I even said it's tactic free zone. It's pretty much up for grabs of who could get that crucial fourth goal. Didn't happen though. Instead, it ends in a free draw in this one, and the shots in this one, a lot of shots. 16 shots for the 17 that Charlotte has, 10 shots on goal for the 7 that Toronto has, 4 shots off target for the 5 that Charlotte has, 4 shots off block for the 1 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And even though I said before how Cincinnati game seems like must-watch TV because of how crazy they play, I argue TFC is trying to make the case of being the most entertaining team to watch when they're playing at home, because I swear this is probably the fifth or sixth time in a row we've seen late drama at BMO Stadium, and there's like a goal late in the game. It's just quite crazy to see how that is the case. So there's no doubt that coming out of this game, I mean, I guess TFC will be kind of happy that they somehow, against all odds, get a point. It's not every day you be down 3-1, down to 10 man for the remaining of the game and still somehow crawl away to get a point. But for Charlotte, they would be very disappointed. Dean Smith would be absolutely livid at his team. This is a Charlotte team that doesn't blow leads very often, and it's quite shocking for how they did it. And especially we're up a man. Though I will say that this won't be the only time we've seen teams give up goals while they're up a man. Although I won't get to that in this review, I'll get to it. Important to that is that we also saw one team that also gave up a goal while they were up a man, and that team ended up losing the game as well. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Miami and the Philadelphia Union, and I gotta say, it's not very often I say that Miami is probably very fortunate to get away with just a point out of this game. I mean, I might have said that a couple of times when their opposition were by far the better team, and in many cases, the Union, they were by far the better team in this one. They definitely put more of the chances. I mean, they did put some away, but you got a sense that they're kind of regretting the fact that they didn't get all free with the way how well they play against Miami in this one. Though they did get the opening goal just 11 minutes in, as Vasilev would score from Westfield and Kevin Sullivan to make it 1-0 in favor of the Union. That was also the first shot of the game as well, and it was optional defending for Miami again. Again, this defense for Inter Miami, how many times I've said it this season, it's going to come back to bite this team big time. I mean, we already saw it in Leeds Cup. I have a feeling it can happen again in the playoffs. Damiani then looked for another, but he was denied by Dane Sinclair on a 1v1 opportunity. It's for Union early in this one. I mean, they really took control of this game, but unfortunately, how many times we said when you don't put away your chances, Miami is going to find a way to strike on the other end, and they do. As in the 21st minute, Daniel Pinter would score from Suarez and Messi to make it 1-1 in this one, and then 5 minutes later, the GOAT himself would score from Frey and Suarez. I believe this is the first goal that Messi have scored since the passing of his father. He definitely looked a little bit more of himself in this one, and yeah, in a blink of an eye, it's 2-1 in favor of Inter Miami. I mean, not a lot of team can do this, but I think a lot of people are not surprised that Inter Miami can do it because it doesn't take much. I mean, if you just let this team with a slimmer of hope, they can do that in an instant. Westfield did look to answer, but he hits it right to Dane Sinclair. By the way, Dane Sinclair gets the spot the goalkeeping spawn. I wouldn't say he was bad in this game. I thought actually he did pretty decent. I mean, the two goals that he conceded, there was really nothing he can do in both of those moments. And not to mention, I think you could even argue that he kind of saved Inter Miami in a bit. He makes some huge save in this one to at least preserve a point for Inter Miami. Sullivan would then hits one right to Dane Sinclair. I thought it was a good response for the Union. They were pressing for the equalizer. Iloski would then miss high from long range, but we do head to halftime with Miami leading 2-1. In the second half, it was pretty much the same. The Union continued to press to get that second goal. Wagner would puts a juke wide from long range, but then the 58th minute, they would get the equalizer as Neil Pierre would score from Iloski to tie the game up at two apiece, and there was just no marking there for Neil Pierre as well. Guy that has really kind of came out of nowhere to be a star for this Union back line. I mean, that is not a big surprise considering that it feels like the Union Academy and that pipeline that I mentioned, it's like a factory. Like every time they lose a key player, remember how they lost Macania that is, and how key that was for them. Well, they just produce another one in Neil Pierre, and he stepped in perfectly in a place where I think he's even more goal dangerous than what we saw with Macania as well. Because yeah, he scored a couple of goals now, and now it's all tied up at two apiece, and then it looked like it was free too when Iloski put it in the back of net. Problem was there was an offside on the development of play, so the goal, of course, was chopped off. Pierre would then hits one right to Dane Sinclair before Blake would deny Pinter from close. And then Dane Sinclair robbed Iloski on a 1v1. I mean, Iloski is the guy that you expect in those moments to score those goals. And again, we've seen in the post World Cup break that he's been a guy that looked more like the San Diego FC kind of Iloski than we've seen with what we saw with Iloski in the first half of the season not being clinical. But unfortunately, this game and also the last game sounds like the Iloski from the first half of the season, just not being clinical in terms of finishing. But both of these teams definitely getting some golden opportunity. But the question is, who can get that crucial third goal? Sullivan had a chance to do so, but he puts it wide from close in the 78th minute. And again, the Union, you just had a sense that, and this has been the story for this team this season, where there's been times where they have had some golden chances and they have been creating some dangerous chances against their opposition, but they're not punishing them on a regular basis, and you just feel like, well, they're not punishing Miami. Miami's gonna somehow find a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat and get all 3 points, right? Well, it didn't happen. Instead, we had a fight at the end of the game because, of course, this is Philly. You know there's gonna be some bad blood that is happening, and this all started. This all started with between Bright and Quinn Sullivan. I think Bright Quinn Sullivan was not happy that Bright was kind of stepping over him with his head, and yeah, Quinn Sullivan definitely did not had any of it, and he basically just completely did a rugby challenge on him. I mean, it was a rugby tackle on him, and then his brother Caven Salt stepped in, but then he or actually no, this was not Yannick Bryan. I'm sorry, this was Ian Frey. That kind of stepped on the head of Quinn Sullivan, and then Quinn Sullivan kind of tackled him, and then Caven Sullivan, his brother, kind of stepped in, and then he kind of got into a confrontation with Bright, and then there was some punches that was being thrown at as well, and as a result, because it was punches being thrown, I believe it was Bright that was connected to Sullivan, and then Sullivan basically trying to put Bright on a choke lock. Yeah, both of those guys were going to get sent off because one, you have Bright throwing punches, that is automatic violent conduct, and then Caven Sullivan basically tried to choke Bright. When you put hands to the face of an opponent, that's also violent contact as well. Wouldn't be surprised we might get suspension coming up. I wouldn't be surprised there might be multi-game suspension that's coming up, especially for Yannick Bright as well. I mean, whenever you punch a player like that, even though it wasn't a strong punch, when you decided to hit punch an opponent like that, you might get multi-game suspension. So it'll be very interesting to see how this go will gather all that up. I'm pretty sure they'll be pretty fast about it. We'll probably have even heard about the suspension. Well, we're probably hurt in the next game, that is, because we all know that both of those guys will be suspended. But I think next week we'll really find out what further punishment that will be in terms of that altercation. But in the end, it did end in a 2-2 draw in this one, and the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 6 that Miami has, 9 shots on goal for the 3 that Miami has, 1 shots off target for the 4 that Philly has, 7 shots on block for the 2 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession the Union has in this game. And like I said, the Union, they would be kicking themselves if they didn't win this one. They were by far the better team in this one. And I gotta say, if you're Inter Miami, there's got to be a lot of concern. I mean, they got very fortunate that they didn't get lost this one. They absolutely should have lost this game with the way that the Union played very well. And as I said, every single game, it's the defense that is letting them down time and time again. And high end talent can only bail you out so much when your defense are just pretty much non-existent, as we've seen with this Inter Miami team throughout the season. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match is Orlando and the Chicago Fire. And before we talk about that match, I need to quickly just charge the laptop here because I just realized the laptop is about to run out of battery. But anyway, we're now going to talk about Orlando and the Chicago Fire. And for some reason, the laptop is not charging. I think it's because my thing not on here. Yeah, I don't know why the laptop's not charging. Oh well, I guess I'll try to. I think I might have enough battery to do this whole thing. Actually, let me just try again here. Let's see. Is it plugged in? No, it's still not charging. I don't know what's going on. I had the same problem last time as well, where my laptop is just not charging. Okay, now it's charging. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, let's now go back to talk about Orlando versus the Chicago Fire. So we did have a weather delay in the middle of this game as well, because of course it's Orlando. They always tend to average 1 or 2 weather delay, whether it's before the game or during the game, that is. But in the end, it's the Chicago Fire that gets the win, and this was kind of a very uh perfect road game that Chicago has, despite the fact they didn't have a lot of chances this one. In fact, Orlando had more of the chances in this game, and in many ways, this game kind of was similar to the Miami and Philly game, where Chicago was under pressure a bit throughout this game, but they survived that pressure, and also the fact that Orlando were being very clinical in front of goal. So early on, Dorsey with the game's first shot, but he missed one in the second minute. But then the first shot for the Fire, it's in the back of the net. It's Deton J. He scored again from Poro to make it 1-0 in favor of the Fire. I told you that Puso has just been red hot right now. I mean, he has been a man on fire right now, and he is definitely carrying that Leeds Cup form into MLS play as well. If he continues to do like this, I wouldn't be surprised there might be some offer that might be coming from Europe or elsewhere to get him, because he is such a exciting young talent. It is. He's a very fast player as well. One of the things that they also mentioned is the fact that his finishing hasn't really been always the greatest, but now it seems like it's saying otherwise, because he's been scoring goals left, right, and center. And like I said, if you can't keep going, it's going to be very hard for the Fires to keep hold of him for relatively long. We then go for a long period where not much really happened, with most of these shots were being just block shot. Brady would then deny Ellis from close in the 34th minute before Detange would hits one right to Crapo in the 37th minute. The game did start to open up a bit with some end-to-end action. Not a big surprise, because the Fire, this is kind of what they've been known for this season under Greg Berhalter. They've been much more dangerous when it comes to transitional play, which is kind of different from last season. Last season, they're more of a possession kind of team. It feels like Greg Berhalter has kind of evolved that game model a bit, and I'm not surprised that that's kind of the reason why the Fire has been pretty successful. Because anytime when you can evolve your game model and you have a different plan to break teams down, yeah, you're going to be a very good team, and the Fire is definitely a good team this season. Brekalo would then hits one right to Brady before Griezmann hits one right to Brady in the 43rd minute. Orlando definitely pressing late to try to get the equalizer. Griezmann would then miss wide from close in the 45th minute. I gotta say, after that promising start that Antoine Griezmann has had, he's been very quiet the last couple of games when it comes to goal scoring, and that's a bit of a concern if you're Orlando City, because he's supposed to be the guy that you bought for big money, and he could also be your assist maker, but you also bought him for those goals, and it just kind of hasn't happened. So I say that, but in as we hit the halftime with the Fire with a 1-0 lead in the second half, guess who ends up on the assist chart? Yep, none other than Antoine Griezmann. So probably I shouldn't have had said what I said there, but he scored here, or Breklo, of course, the one that scored here from Griezmann. It was a good delivery from the corner. Breklo was there to hit it, though. To be fair, not great defending set piece from the Chicago Fire. That's the one thing that I am kind of concerned about the Fire heading in to the latter part of the season. Maybe this is kind of one thing that will maybe keep them from being a true contender as well. Because as electric as their attack is, their defense is definitely questionable, and also doesn't help the fact that the defense that they had is pretty much the same defense and same backline for last year. And as I mentioned, the loss of Bakazi is huge for this team because the backline they currently have right now is pretty much the same as last year. And last year that backline couldn't stop a lot of things. And once again this season you start to see that that defense is starting to struggle a bit, especially on set pieces as well. But besides that shot, not much, or besides that goal, not much really happened for a bit. Though it all changed in the 67th minute when there was a penalty that was given to Chicago. Lewandowski was brought down by Janssen there in the box. So Lewandowski, of course, won the penalty. He was the one that's going to take the penalty, and he buries it. So that made it 2-1 in favor of the Chicago Fire. The big storyline coming into this game is Lewandowski versus Griezmann, who of course would be have more impact to their team. And in many ways, both of them get them to have, with Griezmann getting an assist, but Lewandowski, of course, gets the last laugh with the way that he ended up getting the winning goal from the penalty spot himself. Angulo then looked to answer, but he puts it over before Griezmann would put it just wide after a lightning counter attack. Orlando was definitely pressing back, trying to get themselves the equalizer. Paslic would then puts it high from long range, and then he hits it right to Brady in the 88th minute. You kind of had a sense Chicago was hanging on for a bit, trying to preserve 3 points. And past Chicago team, that's usually not a great thing because I'm pretty sure Fire fans are know that eventually they're gonna find ways to blow that lead. Griezmann would then puts it over from close in the 6 minute stoppage time. Like I said, Griezmann he had his moments in this one, but besides the assist, he's gonna be very disappointed himself of not getting a goal in this one, and most importantly, his team will be very disappointed because it's a loss for Orlando City. They lose 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 17 shots for the 6 that Chicago has. 3 shots on goal for the 4 that Orlando City had. 7 shots off target for the none that the Fire has. 3 shots on goal for the 6 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that the Fire has in this game. And, after that good start that they have coming out of the World Cup break, it feels like Orlando City is heading the wrong direction again, and that's why I know that a lot of Orlando City fans, even though they were very ecstatic in terms of how they played the World Cup break, Orlando City fan was being a little bit cautious optimistic because they know that they've seen this story before in the beginning of the season where it looked like things have turned around and then they went back to old way. And well, I will say that when you look at this team, defensively, they have definitely been much better in the post Cup break. I'm not quite sure if I need to check the standings again whether or not if they're still on point of potentially conceding the most goal ever in a single season. But the problem for them in the last couple of games is goal scoring. Goal scoring hasn't really been there. And like I said, Antoine Griezmann, I know he got an assist in this one, but he's also got to contribute on the goal scoring department. They brought him for both of those things, and while they did get one, they would really love to see that if he can get a goal or two because after all, he is a striker by trade, even though that's not the position that well, that is actually, I think that is the position that he plays at times for this Orlando City side. And at the end of the day, when you're a striker by trade, you're judged by those goals rather than the assist. That is. Now, moving on into the last game on this board is Nashville and the New York Red Bulls. So I thought this was going to end 0-0. This game was 0-0 for a very long time. It looked like it was just one of those games where neither of these sides can finish. But then Nashville finally found a way to get that breakthrough. And this is like the fact that twice in this game they had a goal that was topped off because of offside. In the first half, Hall with the game's first shot, but he missed wide. And even though that was the first shot of the game, that was a massive chance for Julian Hall. And I got to say, Julian Hall, after having an incredible first half of the season, it's been pretty disappointing to see how things have gone for him in the second half of the season, even post All-Star break. He just have not looked like the same player that he was in the beginning of the year. Hasn't been as clinical as he was in the beginning of the season. Because if this was the beginning of the season, Hall would absolutely bear that one 99 out of 100 times. But not much really happened with the shots only at 2-0 early in this one. Surridge would put the ball into the back of net, but as I said before, this would be the first of 2 goals that was chopped off for offside for Nashville because he was in an offside position. Mehmeti then puts it over from long range before Schwagi denied Frostberg from close range. The smoke or the smoke behind the goal whenever the Red Bulls of course score, that you see the goal smoke of course come out, or at least I think that's what they call it. It went off prematurely in this moment. I mean, to be fair, it was a really good save there from Schrocky. It looked like that was destined to go in, so I'm not surprised whoever decided to push that button might have pushed it a little bit too prematurely there, but nevertheless, it was a great save. Save there from Froggy. Bazan then puts it wide on the header. The Red Bulls definitely getting some sustained pressure. But now the question is, can they get that opener? Because on the other end, Suric had a chance to do so, but he was denied by Horvat after a lightning counterattack from Nashville, and we do head to halftime with the score scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Mukhtar would puts it over on the free kick before Ruvakova would puts it just high from close. Baker Whiting then puts it wide on the header. Both of these teams again getting some good chances, but the question is, who can get that crucial opener? Well, Mukhtar tried to do so, but Horvat says no. He denied him from long range, and then Cochran would head it over from the corner. And really, this is the first time we've seen Nashville start to put some sustained pressure and trying to get that opener. Well, I said that. On the other end, Hall would put it wide from long range for Jimenez would hit it into the side netting. All of a sudden, momentum switched right back to the Red Bulls. This is the only game I'll talk about in this review where it feels like the momentum was switching back and forth, and that it feels like both of these teams were desperate to get the opening goal, or at least the crucial show winner as well. But because right now it seems like the Red Bulls had the momentum again. They're trying to get themselves the opener. Hall then hits the sign inning from close range in the 78th minute. Like I said, it's just not Julian Hall. Right? It's been a struggle for him coming out of the World Cup break. Just cannot buy the goal. It feels like he's been a bit snake bitten. But in the 81st minute, Lizzie would look like he put it in to give Nashville the long deserved lead. But once again, it was chopped out by offside. However, as the old saying goes, if you don't succeed, try it, and try again, because third time is finally the charm for Nashville, because in the third minute of stoppage time, Willizzy would score from Espinoza to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. And yeah, not only the fact that this time it counted, he can thank the fact that the Red Bulls were not doing a great job defensively, set pieces. I mean, it was a great delivery there from Espinoza, but Willizzy was just left wide open there. You can't do that, especially this late in the game. And yeah, Willizzy capitalized, give Nashville a 1-0 lead, and that lead would stand as Nashville would escape with all 3 points and also extend their lead in first place. It's, you remember how there was that concern, the fact that Nashville might lose that lead because of how much they struggle coming out of the World Cup break. So much for that, because now they're starting to extend the lead again with them getting a win, and obviously Miami getting only a point out of that game against the Union. The shots in this one, 13 shots for the 10 that Nashville has. One shot on goal for the 3 that Nashville has. One shot's on target for the 7 that the Red Bulls had. So the Red Bulls had a lot of good moments, but unfortunately they weren't forcing seeing Schrocky to make as much save as he need to be. And that's got to be frustrating when you're a team knowing that you're creating some good chances, but you're not putting it on target. 5 shots off block compared to 2 that Nashville has, and possession wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Nashville has in this game. And now the Red Bulls are heading to the wrong direction once again. I mean, I've said it before with the way that the Red Bulls have been a mystery box. I think we're now starting to find out what's actually in the mystery box. The mystery box says that the Red Bull seems like they're heading toward the wrong direction, and that that magic spell that they have with all these youngsters performing. Remember how there was a lot of hypes around that? Yeah, it seems like a lot of these youngsters are struggling, because it's not just Julian Hall that's kind of struggling. Mehmeti himself has been kind of mid at least in these last couple of games, and obviously no pun intended as well. But still, we kind of knew this was going to happen. This is kind of the thing about playing a young team, where they're going to have some great moments, but when they don't have that great moment, when things gets tough, this is what the Red Bulls are going for right now. With that being said, I am now going to switch the board, and I'm going to do it on hand, because there's really no need to stop the video, and basically switch the board while that is happening, when I can do it just manually. So now let's talk about the next game, which is DC United versus the New England Revolution. And boys, the Revs need this one badly. I mean, the Revs has been in a bit of a free fall in the last couple of games, and especially against a DC team that, you know, if you're a DC fan, there's two ways you can look at it. You can say that it's been a pretty good run with the way that they have got a lot of the draws as well that some of them probably should have been lost, as what we saw last season. But then if you're a DC fan that maybe have some optimism or maybe are a little bit pessimistic in a way, I think a lot of those pessimistic DC fans said, "Yep, this is what the DC that we know in the past." And again, I still think this team really overachieved this year. If they do make it to the playoffs, it's going to be a successful season. But yeah, this is definitely not a game that will help their chances of at least staying above the red line right now. Because all of a sudden, when you look at the Eastern Conference, there's only a 6 point gap separating the team in ninth place, which is DC, with that last playoff spot, all the way to the team at the bottom. That is Atlanta United. Right now in 15th place. So maybe there might be some teams that I've written off. Maybe they still have a shot heading into the latter part of this season. Now, early on, there was a couple of half chances for DC, but a lot of them was blocked. In fact, the shots were 3-0, 15 minutes in for DC. Rangewood then puts it over, as that was New England's first shot of the game, before Turner would deny Nono in the back post. But then the 23rd minute, Yusuf would score. He scored from Miller and Harrison to make it 1-0 in very New England, really against the run of plays, because I thought DC started pretty well in this one. Montano did look to answer, but he puts it over on the chip before he also puts it over from close 4 minutes later. DC was definitely pressing back to try to get the equalizer. Heel then hits one right to Johnson, but then the 45th minute, it's Yusuf again. This was the game for Ahsan Yusuf. I mean, little did we know that this would be a special night for him. A night that I don't think we were expecting him to have this kind of night of end up scoring a hat trick, but he scored here from Harrison and in Sands. And really, it was a very similar goal. Like all three goals that we score are very similar, where DC just did not mark him. I mean, I know Yusuf hasn't scored a lot of goals, but you still have to mark that that player in the box. They didn't. They got punished again, and just like that, it's 2-0 in favor of New England. Yusuf then tried to go for a hat trick in the first half, but he puts that one over. But we do head to halftime with New England leading 2-0 against DC. In the second half, Nuno would puts it wide from close in the 49th minute. Not much chances really, despite the fact that DC was in control of the game, which New England will be happy about that. They're trying to see out this 2-0 result. Miller would then head it right to Johnson before he denied Turgelman from close range, and then he denied Turgelman again from the header just 3 minutes later. Remember how I said that maybe New England is happy to just settle for this 2-0 win? Well, that might not be the case, because now they're pressing hard to try to get that third goal. Johnson then denied Heel from close in the 66th minute, but then just a couple of seconds later, Yusuf will complete his hat trick. He scored from Harrison and Polster to complete the hat trick here. It's been coming. I mean, New England putting tons of pressure in the last 5 minutes. They finally broke through, and really, again, it's a very similar goal, left wide open in the box there. I mean, you would have thought that after doing that twice in this game that DC might not do it for the third time, but apparently that's not the case for this DC defense. And the third time they let Yusuf wide open in the box, 3 times he punished him with a hat trick, and all of a sudden it's now 3-0 in favor of New England. Turner then denied Ordaz on the other end as he pushed that one onto the post before Baribo would miss wide from close. DC was definitely pushing late again to try to at least maybe get something for the fans to cheer about, because I'm pretty sure the fans are probably a little shocked the fact that their team has been at least playing respectable soccer to just look like we're back to 2025 way of them losing games by this kind of margin. Turner would then deny Bartlett from close, and yeah, the boos definitely rained down at Aldi Field as well at full time, because yeah, in the end, New England, they get a much needed 3-0 win. This is exactly what the doctor ordered, because this team is pretty much in a bit of a free form mode, just like what I said about some of the team in the Western Conference as well. But they finally snap out with a 3-0 win. The shots in this one, 17 shots for the 15 that DC had, 3 shots on goal for the 8 that New England has, 5 shots off target for the 4 that DC had, 7 shots that was blocked for the 3 that New England has, and possession wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that DC has in this game. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, boy, I did not see this coming. I mean, I did not expect Montreal to be going to lower.com field and get all 3 points, especially with the way that I said before with Columbus. You put your game against Charlotte, that's understandable. But now it puts all that pressure on you to have to win this game, and this is understandable because they have done very well against Montreal in previous time, especially at lower.com field. But I don't know what happened to Columbus in this game. I mean, and you look at this roster they had, they pretty much put their strongest team, and they just didn't show up whatsoever in this game. This looked like a very Henrik Rydstrom kind of performance rather than Laurent Courtois and his revelation that Columbus has had in these last couple of weeks. Early on, Sunchuk would put it right to Schulte in the 3rd minute, but then in the 5th minute, Wusu would score. He scored from Sunchuk to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. It came over a bad turnover for Columbus as well. Well, yeah, you just can't do that. Even against Montreal, a team that are known to score a lot of goals, when you give a bad turnover like that, you're always going to be asking him to potentially concede, and that's exactly what happened. Longstaff would then look for another, but he hits it right to Schulte. Who is this Montreal team? I mean, I'm pretty sure Montreal fans are probably watching and thinking like this is not the same Montreal team that we know in the last couple of weeks of looking like a team that is going through the motion, because now it seems like they're flying in this game and they want to get themselves the second goal. And then in the 20th minute, yeah, Thomas Gillia did a Rios Novos. This is the second time this season we have seen a goalkeeper trying to hits one off of a simple back pass, and he just took a swing and a miss. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't happen more often. You know, sometimes you do see players maybe accidentally took a swing and a miss, and you know, if you're a goalkeeper, you hope that that's not the case because you're literally the last line of defense. But yeah, this was very similar to the Rios Novos howler against Chicago, where it's a simple back pass. Julia just completely whiffs on it, and it goes into the back of the net. It goes down as an own goal. So yeah, an absolute gift for Columbus, and the game was tied up at 1 apiece. We then go for a period where not much really happened. Chambos puts it wide from close in the 41st minute, and we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 1 apiece. In the second half, Julia would deny Amundsen, but then it falls to Farsi, who couldn't put that one on target there. It wouldn't matter because the flag did came up for offside. Schulte would then deny Pereira from long range for Owusu with miss wide from close. Schulte then denied Owusu from close in the 53rd minute. Montreal start to pile on the pressure again. Again, you would have definitely expect the fact that, well, after the goal that they gave up, that the heads are going to drop with this team. No, they didn't. They continued to push on and look like a team that had some confidence coming into this one. Longstaff would then hit it right to Schulte in the 54th minute before Gillia on the other end denied Chambeau from long range. Strite would then miss wide from close in the 73rd minute, but then 5 minutes later, he did not miss this one. In fact, this was an absolute golazo and a half. Definitely goal of the week, maybe even goal of the year material as well, as he scored here to give Montreal a 2-1 lead. And to be fair, it's nothing but Montreal deserve it in that moment. I mean, they've been by far the better team. They've been pushing to get that second goal, and albeit they did it in an unconventional way of a banger, they'll take it. It's now 2-1 in favor of them. But Columbus did try to push late to get an equalizer. In fact, they almost had a chance to do so in the first minute stoppage time, where there was a chaotic sequence where the Crew had 3 opportunities to score with Montreal not clearing their lines. The closest was Zwatsky basically heading this one, or hitting this one that was somehow clear off the line. But in the end, despite the late pressure that Columbus pushed, Montreal gets the win. Again, this is definitely one of the more surprising results. I definitely did not expect this coming into this one, especially with the way that Montreal hasn't really been playing. And they're another one of those teams alongside with Atlanta are just only 6 points back off the playoffs. So they're not actually that far away. It feels like there's a bit of a logjam in the Eastern Conference again. And it feels like it's once again started to be like last season again, where it feels like in the East, we already talked about how the East this season is not as strong as previous season. But man, we also saw last year that besides the fact that the East was so top heavy and between 1 through 7, that when you get to 8 from bottom, that's where it's between the worst of the worst. It feels like that it's pretty much just between teams that are playing hot potato in terms of who really wants to make it to the playoffs, and that's why it's all the team that made it to playoff in the East looked like they were so unprepared to make it further after winning that playing round. And I have a feeling this might be the same case again because of the winner of that playing round get to play potentially against Nashville in the first round. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna survive even if it's a a free series that is. But the shots in this one, 13 shots with just five. Yeah, that's right. Five shots that Columbus had in this whole game. Two shots on goal for the nine that Montreal has. Four shots off target with the two that Columbus had. One shot that was blocked for the two that Montreal has. And possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that Montreal has in this game. Is it safe to say that maybe the new interim head coach boost has started to wear off on Columbus? I mean, we talk about this all the time, where when a new interim head coach comes in or a new head coach come in, you get that boost a bit of winning a couple of games, but it's gonna eventually run out. Feels like maybe it started to run out for this Columbus team as well, despite the fact that they added pieces and looked like they reloaded to have a chance to make the playoffs. Doesn't seem like that's kind of the case. It feels like they're kind of gone back to where they were in the beginning of the season. And Crew fan doesn't want a reminder of what has happened in the first half of the season under Henrik Rostrom. Now, moving on in the next match is Cincinnati and NYCFC. So despite the fact that there wasn't as much goals that I usually see a Cincinnati game, you know what's going to happen in a Cincinnati game. You know there's going to be chances. You know there's going to be a lot of shots, and this was one of those games where it felt like it was a back and forth affair. And I thought for sure that this was going to end 1-1, but then there's this guy called Evander. I think it's safe to say that he's got to be front runner right now for MVP. And I know people will say that Messi's probably going to do it because Messi has got the numbers again. He has a chance to win three MVP in a row. But if you haven't paid attention of what Evander is doing, I mean Evander, it's hard to believe that in the beginning of the season when he struggled, it just feels like something just click after a couple of games coming out of that injury because he has been a man possessed for Cincinnati. He is just a guy that is just single handedly carrying this Cincinnati team both on the attack and resort wise, and he did it again in this moment and really show why he is definitely right now front runner of winning MVP this season. Now, in the first half, Freeze denied Evander from long range before he did Freeze denied Smith from long range in the 7 minutes, since that he definitely were on the front foot early, tried to get the early lead. Obama would heads it wide, or heads it right to Freeze in the 11th minute, but then a couple of seconds later, he would be on target to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. However, that lead only lasted 10 minutes because in the 21st minute, Luigi would score for the second consecutive game. First time from open play, that is, from Ojeda and Fernandez to tie the game up at one apiece. And really, it was kind of against the run of play because it was all Cincinnati up to this point. That was only the first shot for NYCFC up to that point. Sands then looked for another, but he hits it wide. Momentum all of a sudden with NYCFC. This is going to be a thing throughout this game where it feels like that momentum thing was swinging left and right like a pendulum. Evander would then hits one right to Freeze before Triole hits one right to Saltano in the 43rd minute. Both of these teams were definitely pushing for the lead before halftime, but we do head to halftime with the score tied up at one apiece. In the second half, Saltano would deny Fernandez Markel, but he did give up a juicy rebound, and Luigi was there to pounce on it. You would have expected him to score his second goal of the game, but somehow, in some way, Saltano was able to save that. I have no idea how Saltano was able to get back up and got a fingertip for that. And in many ways, he kind of meant himself because that would not be a great moment for Saltano giving up a juicy rebound there. Uh, but in the 50th minute, he would deny Luigi again, this time from close range. NYCFC was definitely on top early there, looking to trying to get the lead. However, like I said, every time when I said that, the other team started having momentum. Echenike would hit one right to Freeze. Evander would just curls it wide from close range. Cincinnati now seems like they're the one that's trying to get the lead and has responded well. Abomadam would put it into the side netting, which haven't to say they fault that went in, which I don't blame them because when the way that ball kind of hit the back stanchion and hit the ripple into the net, yeah, depending on where you're sitting, it definitely looked like that one went in. Barlow would then hit it wide from close in the 76th minute. Cincinnati's definitely knocking on the door, but the question is, can they go back clinical finishing? It was kind of lacking in this game. That's something you don't usually say about Cincinnati. They've been very lethal in front of goal this season. Though, as I said, every time when I say one team has the momentum, the other team responds. Salutano would deny Magno from close. He then denied Magno again from close range in the 88th minute. All of a sudden, NYCFC was pushing late to try to get the lead. We also only get 2 minutes of stoppage time, which is probably the fewest minutes of stoppage time I've ever seen for a game that is tied up at one apiece. I am shocked the fact that we only got 2 minutes, but it doesn't matter because it only took 40 seconds into stoppage time for Evander to score a banger. He scored from Valenzuela and Barlow to make it 2-1 in favor of Cincinnati. And like I said, how can you stop Evander? Like you know that old saying you cannot stop this guy. You can only hope to contain him. That's kind of the case with Evander right now. Between him and Messi, I'm pretty sure they're gonna have a good fight for who, of course, win the MVP. I'm gonna give it to Evander if I had to vote. I mean, again, I know Messi has had some big moments as well, especially the way that he's still scoring like what we expect him to always do. But what Evander is doing is just something special. I mean, he is just an absolute man possessed. This is probably the best we have seen Evander play, and that's saying something because he has had some good seasons in the past, both with the Timbers and with Cincinnati last season. But it just feels like right now Evander with so much confidence right now. If he continued to do this for the rest of the season, no doubt I think he's got to be considered to be MVP this year. Now, moving on into the last game we're going to talk about is Minnesota and Atlanta. So this was, of course, the 10th year anniversary as Minnesota, of course, celebrating their 10th year in MLS play, and I guess they want to do it against Atlanta United because the first ever home game back in 2017 was against Atlanta United. It was a snow opener, and while there was no snow this time at Allianz Field, imagine there was snow in this one. That would have been such an ironic kind of thing. But there was no snow in this game, but instead we saw another L that Minnesota suffered against Atlanta United. It's like we have it's like time as all. The fact that Minnesota on their 10th year anniversary, as much as you hope that they can celebrate that with a win and finally with the singing of Wonderwall, yeah, that's not gonna happen when you're faced against an Atlanta team that I will say that if I wanted to be a little bit sarcastic, at least it's an improvement compared to what we saw in 2017 when they lost 6-1 in that game as well. And by the way, with the 10th year anniversary, not only the fact that they introduced a lot of former Minnesota United player, and they might as well introduce Michael Boxall as well, even though I know he's still currently with the team. He's actually the last surviving member of the team that came into the league in 2017. It's hard to believe how he's been in this team for so long, and there's no doubt that he is get cement himself as a club legend for this Minnesota team. And if Minnesota is thinking about building statue in front of Allianz Field, Michael Boxall better be there as well. What a legend of a player has been. But this was also marked as the return of Cal and Kendra in the booth. We've been asking for this for a very long time. In fact, this actually is not the first time that Cal and Kendra share the same booth. I believe a couple of years ago they did a Chicago game that they were together, and it was great to watch that game and hear them play. But inside of me, and I'm pretty sure inside of every Loons fan, was hoping that they can finally call a Minnesota United game. I mean, I know Cal has called Minnesota United game doing Apple TV, though not as much as it used to be. And Kendra pretty much is on every single game as well with Neil Sika. I think the those two guys are kind of like the one that focus mostly either Minnesota or Columbus, and not to mention Kendra actually still live in the Twin City area. That kind of makes sense. Why Cal obviously no longer does, so he actually moved to New York City, if I'm not mistaken. But it's great to see familiar voices back in the booth, and it's great that finally the wish has been fulfilled, and it's only fitting the fact that on a 10th year anniversary game like that I get to hear their familiar voices. That's the only positive I will say about this Minnesota team because, like my other team that I'll talk about tomorrow, an absolute free fall that this team is going for. It feels like even when I make that video talking about my two struggling team, I was hoping maybe that video would be used as a reverse jinx because every time when I made a video talk about teams struggling, they instantly get a win in the next game. Didn't happen this midweek. It might happen this weekend though, because as I said, this weekend both of my favorite team face off against each other, and I'm gonna say the same thing as I said before in my preview. I really don't care who wins in that game. I just want one of my team to win. It's hard to believe that since the World Cup break, none of my team has been able to win a game, and we're at the end of August right now. In the 11th minute, Caldera puts it just wide as that was the game's first shot. Not much really happened early in this one. That's not a big surprise. Both of these teams have struggling to score goals. Minnesota have only scored 21 goals. Atlanta coming into this game only scored 20. I thought we were going to end up to have a 0-0 result, which feels like it's such a fitting play for two teams that have really struggled this season. Hoyos would then deny Marcanic of a long throw in before the post, would deny Amarone as the flag went up. So even if that went in, it wouldn't have counted. But the game started to open up a bit. It looked like both of these teams were starting to attack a bit, which is kind of something I was not expecting. I thought it was just going to be a dull kind of matchup. Marcanic would then puts it over from close before Elias would puts one into the stands. Shunkalai was in on goal there, but he only puts that one into the side netting. Both of these teams were definitely getting some chances, but the question is, who can finally get that opener? And that would be a big question because we've seen both of these teams have these kind of games where they put a lot of chances. They're not able to put one in. However, Atlanta would be the one that finally get that clinical finishing. And of all guys that gets that clinical finishing, it's their center back, Thomas Jakob. He's been scoring some goal for this Atlanta team, and not just headers too, but he's scoring an absolute banger here. And while yes, I understand that Jakob doesn't score a lot of goals, you still can't leave a man wide open like that in the back post like that. That's just criminal defending there from Minnesota. Not the first time I've said that. As good as this defense has, it's so frustrating to see that this team at times have these kind of switch off moment, and this was the switch off moment here, completely leaving Jakob wide open on the second phase of play. And just like that, Atlanta takes a 1-0 lead. Shankalai did look to answer, but he puts that one just wide. But we do head to halftime with Atlanta leading 1-0. In the second half, Pereira puts it wide of a shot cross before the post. Actually, saved Gregerson off scoring an own goal there, which that kind of feels like it's fitting for Minnesota luck in terms of in front of goal, where even if there's potential luck that goes their way, it doesn't happen. Marcanic would then hits it over from close before Caldera would puts it wide from close in the 55th minute. The Loons definitely were piling the pressure, but like I said, we've seen this story before, and it usually doesn't have a good ending. Though in the 60th minute, Minnesota finally got the equalizer, and in some way, you kind of say it's been coming. Marcanic scored the equalizer here. It was actually a post that was hit by Longwane, but Marcanic was able to follow up. But even then, they actually originally was going to chop off this to be offside, but then the referee, after a couple of seconds, he said it was a good goal, and then they had to go to VAR as well, or at least take a look at VAR as well. It was such a confusing kind of mess. I myself would have thought that this goal is going to somehow get chopped off, isn't it? Because knowing the luck that this team has had in front of goal, it just feels like it's all so fitting that this goal will be chopped off. But no, the goal stand. It's 1-1 now in this game. Marunchuk did look to answer, but he puts this one high before there was a shot for a penalty for Minnesota not given in the 70th minute. But then in the 78th minute, Atlanta gets the lead back. It's Tristan Munyomba. He's been scoring some goals for this Atlanta team, but he scored here from Maranchuk to make it 2-1 in favor of Atlanta. And again, just not great defending whatsoever in a Minnesota perspective there. I mean, that was way too easy for Munyomba to find some space to strike this one in. And yeah, just like that, they have the lead back. Yoboa did look to answer, but he was denied by Hoyos. But Marcana had a chance on the rebound, but he was also denied by Hoyos because, again, this team can't finish their chances no matter what happens. In the 89th minute, Gonzalez would heads that one over from close. The Loons continued to press for the equalizer. Atlanta was kind of holding on to try to get another massive 3 points. I don't think this season they have won two in a row though, so this would have definitely big for Tata Martino's side. Gonzalez then puts it over from long range in the 4th minute stoppage time, and as I said, they haven't won two in a row coming into this game. They finally did it for the very first time. A 2-1 win in this one over Minnesota. The shots in this one, 8 shots compared to 13 that Minnesota has. 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Atlanta has. 2 shots off target for the 8 that Minnesota has. No shots was blocked for the 2 that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Atlanta has in this game. And for those wondering, yes, this jersey, this 5-stripe jersey, is the same that Atlanta, of course, wear in their inaugural season. I think it's only fitting that I decided to wear this. In case if Atlanta does get the win as well. Not just the fact that this is the first time they won two in a row, but it's like it feels like it's only fitting in a 10-year anniversary where we see nostalgia being brought back, seeing a lot of former Loons player that isn't even Adrian Heath being introduced in this part of the 10-year anniversary celebration. And it's only fitting the fact that the Loons would let their fan base down again and lose this game as well. Just like what we saw in the first game between them and Atlanta at home as well. But all kidding aside, as I said, that game against the San Jose Earthquakes on Saturday, I am gonna still go to that game. And like I said, I'm in that game. I don't know who I want to root for because I want I just I'm kind of at a point where I'm just really hoping eventually that somebody wins that game. I mean, if that game ends in a draw, I would say it's kind of fitting, but it just kind of got to a point where I'm almost feel like, man, oh man, do I have really started to now not really care too much about both of my team? I mean, I know that feels like a cynical thing to say because you always want to root for your team week in and week out, and I've definitely done that with both of my team, especially with the Quakes as well. Even though it's been tough at times, but man, it gets to a point where there is a breaking point, and I also mentioned the word apathy as well. Apathy has really started to set in when it comes to both of my teams, seeing how bad they've been performing lately, and it's kind of getting to a point where again I just hope that eventually the soccer gods will reward me on Saturday. I mean, on that Saturday, I'm not even going to be planning to wear a jersey of any of the team. I'll probably just kind of almost sit back and just almost pray that somebody will win that game because, like I said, it's quite crazy to say that none of my team has won a game since the World Cup break. In fact, the last time that my team I saw one of my team won a game was the Quakes winning against the Portland Timbers, and it was the first time they've ever done in franchise history. And I would have never thought that that day, with such a historic moment for that team, that would be the last time I've seen either of my team get a win. In fact, Minnesota, if you don't count the Leeds Cup, that that is, they haven't won a game. I think going all the way back to May when they the last time they won was against Columbus. It was a come from behind victory. They haven't even won at home since April as well. They still only have 2 wins this season at home, and the way how things are going right now, I would not be surprised if they miss out on the playoffs. And I also wouldn't be surprised if the Quakes miss out on the playoffs as well, because as I said before, and I'll talk about in tomorrow's review, they're another team that is in absolute free fall right now, and are on verge of potentially the greatest collapse we have ever seen a team has ever gone through in MLS history. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of these 8 games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 8 games that is. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Tomorrow I'll look at the last 6 games. I'll also do the preview for the Friday game as well, because as I said, this review is already late. Before I do apologize that it's a little bit later than anticipated. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.